Good morning. Today we are going over our math test for Unit 5, learning from the mistakes we made to help with our practice work and retakes. For our first objective, most of us remembered that this was one that I'd star less than, means we had to say n less than 14. So n minus 14, so we wanted to take that 14 away from our number. There were a few of us that did 14 minus n. Remember, it's 14 less than the n, so we want to take that 14 away from the n. The sum of a number and 10, so it's just a number plus 10, and then writing a word phrase. I accepted lots of different phrases, so something like 12 plus a number, 15 minus a number, and less than 15. Those kind of things. Yes, Clay. Did you have a question, Clay? Yep, and n plus 10, 10 plus n. When you add, you can put them either way. You didn't get it marked wrong, did you? Yeah, because when adding, it can go either way. So I accepted it either way. It's the subtracting that causes an issue. Any other questions on the adding and subtracting? All right, for our multiplying and dividing, quotient means we divide. It is important, just like with subtracting, it's important with the order. With dividing, it's important what the order is. So 5 and a number, or 5 and a number. You cannot put the number first, because 9 divided by 3 is very different than 3 divided by 9. So the order matters. Product of 8 and a number, you could say 8n, 8 times n. Now down here, oh look at that, we have 8n, and here we have the product of 8 and a number. You could have written the same thing. That's what I did when I was doing the answer key. I'm like, oh, Mr. Schultz made this one an easy one. This one would be a number divided by 7. Again, it's very specific. It has to be the number divided by 7. If we said 7 divided by a number, it would be a very different answer. Done.
Would it also be the quotient of a number and 7?
Yeah, you could do a quotient, but the point was that I was trying to get at is you had to have the number and then the 7. Okay, so you could say, just like with the adding and subtracting, there's different ways we could say it, but it has to be the number and then 7. Any other questions on the multiplying or dividing? Okay. Algebraic expressions, putting in our numbers. Some of us were getting confusing ourselves about the order of operations. So this first thing you do is you fill in the value of your variable into your expression. So when the number's right next to the variable, we know it's multiplying. Then order of operations, we know we want to do multiplying and dividing, then do the adding and subtracting. So I have 2 multiplying, so I have 12, I have 30, I bring down that adding, 12 plus 30 is 42. Now this one confused some people until we realize that that fraction bar means we are dividing. So I need to divide first. 18 divided by 6 is 3. Bring down the rest of my expression. 10 plus 3 minus 3 gives me 10. For number 11, we have 6 plus 10 minus 3. So that's 16 minus 3. I had a couple of people accidentally add them together. It is a subtraction. Then we have 2 times C plus 12 divided by A minus 6. So I want to do my multiplying and dividing first. 2 times 10 is 20. 12 divided by 3 is 4 minus 6. So I have 24 minus 6 gives me 18. Any questions on how I did the order of operations there? Okay. Adding or subtracting with the one step. I'm going to show us the order of operation, the opposite operations way. You could have used logic. You could have used the fact families. There are quite a few of us that were logically finding it out. I'm going to show us that opposite operations so we can see how that comes into play with the two-step equations that a lot of us had trouble with. Okay, so let's look at how we do the one step. 15 plus n. So I want to do the opposite. Remember, it's SADMER. So I want to do my subtracting or adding, then I do my multiplying or dividing. So it's a positive 15, so I want to subtract 15. I don't do anything with the variable for my step. I do it with just that whole number, and whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. 15 minus 15 is 0. 52 minus 15 is 37. Here I'm subtracting 7, so I want to add 7 to both sides. Minus 7 plus 7 is 0. Negative 1 plus 7 is 6. If I have add 12, I want to subtract 12 from both sides. So that gets to be a 0, so it's just n. 33 minus 12 is 21. Then it says write an equation using addition or subtraction with the variable value of 7. I do not want the equation to equal 7. Okay, I want the variable to be 7. Some of us came up with an equation that did have an answer 7, but the important part was that we had our variable as 7. So you could do 7 plus 1 equals 8. Take out that 7 and say n plus 1 equals 8. Okay, figure out an expression using the 7 and adding or subtracting. Take out your 7 and put your variable in for it. Any questions on that? Some of us didn't do a good job with finding our expression. If anybody wants me to explain it to them, I can explain it to you later. Then we have our one step with our multiplying or dividing. Again, we do the opposite operation. So if minus 8 next to the n is multiplying, we're going to divide. Notice how it's a negative 8. So we need to divide by negative 8. Negative divided by negative is a positive. Positive divided by negative is a negative. So it should have been negative 5. That looks like a 3 now. But it looks like a 3. So we got it wrong because you didn't write it neatly. And it looks like a 3. Very much looks like a 3. So don't, we have to write in a way that I can read your number. Okay? Even just now coming up, I looked at it and said, well, that's a 3. So next time you have to write it in a way that I can read it. Okay? N divided by 4, the opposite of dividing is multiplying by 4. So we got 4 over 4, we're left with n. 8 times 4 is 32. Then we have 2 times n, so we want to divide by 2. 2 divided by 2 is my 1. 22 divided by 2 is 11. It doesn't matter if your friend's going to agree with you or not agree with you, Layla. The fact of the matter is, I couldn't read your answer, so you're going to have to redo that one, okay? So we don't need to show it to other people and ask their opinion. Did I have a hand go up over here? Does somebody over here have a question? Okay. Write an equation using multiplication or division with a variable value of 4. So you could say 4 times 5 equals 20. Take out the 4, put in your n. You could say same thing, 5n equals 20. Either way, I accepted it. But your variable had to equal 4. Any questions on those? All right. CO41. Now we're working with fractions, adding and subtracting. Some of us forgot our rules. Who can remind me what the first rule is? Layla. Yeah, so, well, the first thing you have to do is if we have mixed numbers, make them improper. We don't have any mixed numbers to worry about. So yes, we want to have common denominator. Whatever you do to the bottom to get that common denominator, you do to the top. Then when we add or subtract, you only add or subtract the numerators. Denominator stays the same. And then your very last step has to be what? Simplify. Some of us forgot to simplify. So let's look at what we have. 1/4 plus 3/10. I used a common denominator of 20. Could have used a common denominator of 40. You could have said 4 times 10 is 40. That's a common denominator. I like to go with my smallest common denominator, so I have to simplify it less. To go from 4 to 5, or 4 to 20, I multiplied by 5. 5 times 1 is 5. To go from 10 to 20, I multiplied by 2. 3 times 2 is 6. I get 5 plus 6 is 11. 20th. I cannot get any simpler than that. That is my answer. Next one, I have 5/8 plus 1/3. Common denominator of 24. 8 times 3 got me 24, so 5 times 3 is 15. 3 times 8 is 24. 1 times 8 is 8. 15 plus 8 is 23. Over 24. I cannot get any simpler than that. Next one. I have 5/8 plus 3/10 plus 1/2. I use a common denominator of 40. Some people use the common denominator of 80. That works too. To go from 8 to 40, I multiply by 5. 5 times 5 is 25. To go from 10 to 40, I multiply by 4. 3 times 4 is 12. To go from 2 to 40, I multiply by 20. 1 times 20 is 20. I add up my numerators and I get 57 over 40. And we could turn that into an or a mixed number of 1 and 17/40. I accepted either one. Left improper or turn to a mixed number. And our last one, 5/8 minus 1/2. I used a common denominator of 8. So 5/8 stays 5/8. To go from 2 to 8, I times by 4. 1 times 4 is 4. 5 minus 4 is 1. 8. I can't simplify that any lower. Any one that you want me to go over a little more? We're feeling good about fractions. We see where our mistakes happened. Okay. Multiplying and dividing fractions have different rules. We no longer need common denominators. We multiply going across. If we're dividing, we have to flip to our reciprocal on that last fraction and then multiply going across. Last step has to be to simplify. So this I have 2/5 times 1/3. 2 times 1 is 2. 5 times 3 is 15. And I have 2/15 for my answer. I cannot simplify that one. Then we have 5 divided by 2/5. So that's 5 over 1 times 5 over 2. I have to flip that second fraction to the reciprocal. That becomes 25. 5 times 5 is 25. 1 times 2 is 2. 25 halves, or I could say 12 and a half. I accepted either way. Then we have B divided by C. I'm going to change it to a multiplying. Flip to the reciprocal. 1 times 9 is 9. 3 times 8 is 24. I had some people leave that as their answer. Unfortunately, we can simplify that. We can divide a 3 out. So your answer should have been 3/8. And then 8 divided by B. So that's 8 over 1 times 3 over 1. 8 times 3 is 24. 1 times 1 is 1. So our answer is, I accepted the 24 over 1 or just 24. Any questions on that one? All right. Let's look at CO43. People were doing good with the 41 and the 42, but then when we combined those two objectives together, it threw people. Okay, so please watch the steps, because there are numerous people who need to retake this objective. Watch the steps that I go through so you understand where you went wrong, how you're supposed to solve them. Remember, we're doing SADMER. We want to do our subtracting or adding, then we do our dividing or multiplying. Opposite operation. So here, I don't want the value that's connected to the variable. I want the one that has no variable to start with. This is minus 4. So I'm going to add 4 to both sides. Minus 4 plus 4 zeros out. And I have 6n. 26 plus 4 is 30. Now I have multiplying by 6, so I want to divide by 6. 6 divided by 6 is a 1. 30 divided by 6 is 5. Plus 9, I want to subtract 9. So I have negative 12n. 9 minus 9 zeros out. 45 minus 9 is 36. Now when I divide, I'm not just dividing by 12, I'm dividing by negative 12. Because I want it to be a positive n. So I have to divide by negative 12. 36 divided by negative 12 gives me a negative 3. Positive divided by a negative gives me a negative 4 in the answer. Here. What was that color? Did I say negative 4? I was coughing when I said it, so the answer is negative 3. All right, here we want to subtract out our 14 first, because we don't want the one with the variable. So we have n over 3. Then we have 25 minus not 14 gives me 11. Now, that fraction bar means I'm dividing, so I want to multiply both sides by 3. 3 divided by 3 here gives me that positive n. 11 times 3 gives me 33. And here, plus 9, I want to subtract 9. So I have my n over 4 and 3 minus 9 is negative 6. Multiply each side by 4 because I was dividing by 4. Negative 6 times a positive 4. Negative times a positive is a negative. So the answer is negative 24. There were a lot of people who forgot their negatives. I did have one person who did have the negative up here, and then when they rewrote it, they wrote the positive. I gave them credit for the negative because they had it in their work. This is why it's important to show your work. So if you showed it to me and then forgot it, I give credit for it. Show your work. Any questions on the subjective? Review. Rounding to the 10th place would be the 4. The 4 is followed by a 6. So we round up. Simplifying, we need to divide a 2 out. We get 4/5. It takes 5 days to paint 2 houses. How many days does it take to paint 8 houses? To go from 2 to 8, we multiply by 4. So 5 times 4 gives me 20 days. And putting our values in order, 0.33 is 33%. I want to have a denominator of 100. So multiplying by 5, so I can see my order. And which is heavier, a ton of bricks or a ton of feathers? A ton is a ton is a ton. Doesn't matter what we're all putting in to make that ton. They're the same. Ton is a ton is a ton. So they're even. Not one is heavier than the other. The ton weighs the same as a ton. Ton of puppies, ton of trees, ton of feathers, ton of bricks. They're all a ton. They weigh the same amount. All right, any questions on our test? Okay, Layla? What's our magic number when we're working with percentages? So what do we want? We want the denominator to be 100. How did we go from 20 to 100? What do I multiply by? I don't know why it's choosing no, not there we go. So if I multiplied the bottom by 5, I multiplied the top by 5. So that's how I knew it was 35%. Any other questions? All right.